Ukulele Saz, and this is part of a new mini-series all about sheet music. If you've never learned an instrument before, or never learned how to read music before, this is for you. What we're going to do in this series is break everything down. I'm going to show you some different musical notes, some different musical instructions, and really help you understand the tab and the musical notes that you see whenever you look up how to play riffs and melodies. As always, you can check out my Buy Me a Coffee page where you'll get access to all of the lesson materials, some top tips to help you along the way, and all of my weekly, monthly song sheets, all for £3 a month. So don't forget to check it out. But if you do like this video, give it a like, hit the subscribe button, and I really appreciate it. It's been great to see so many people giving such nice feedback, and I'm always welcome and open to your feedback too. Why do we need to read sheet music? If we're musicians, surely we just listen and hear everything by ear. And a lot of the time, if you've never read sheet music before, you generally rely on your ear when you're playing a riff. When you play a riff like that, normally you know the song in your head, so you know how to replicate that when you play it. What the notes do is the notes really help us with our accuracy. They allow us to play the notes for the correct number of beats. They help us to understand how long we play each thing for. And this can be really important, especially when we're playing with others, when timing is super important. But also, it will help expand your horizons a little bit, because music is connected with every instrument. So when you understand how to read music and understand the values of each note, then that's going to transfer into learning other instruments too. We are going to focus specifically on the rhythm. We can have a look at the notes too and where they are on the stave, but because we're so lucky as ukulele players to have tab underneath, what we're going to look at instead is how to connect those things together. So here's a little example with lots of arrows and lots of things to show you exactly what to expect when you look at sheet music. This might actually be super familiar to you, so now I'm just going to explain each one of these little concepts. So at the left hand side, that little cool swirly thing that you've seen probably very often is a treble clef. We normally use that for the upper end of the piano, and that's the higher notes of the stave. The ukulele is middle C, on the piano high, so that's why we use the treble clef and not the bass clef for the ukulele. The bass is the lower notes. So you'll often see that treble clef sign. Next to that, you'll see two numbers. In this case, we can see 4/4. That is our time signature, and that represents how many beats are in the bar. More on that later. We've also got our key signature. Now, this is the key of C, because there are no little hashtag sharp symbols or small b's, which are flat symbols. Normally, the number of sharps or flats will also indicate which key we're in, but again, that's a lesson for another day. As you can see, there's two lines, one at the top, one at the bottom. The one at the bottom has numbers, the one at the top has musical notes. So the notes in ukulele tell us how long we play each note for. Each one of these notes has got different values. They represent a different number of beats. And the tab underneath with the numbers, that physically shows you where to play on the ukulele. Now you'll notice that the numbers are directly underneath a musical note, and that means if, for example, we see a 0, we see a 2, they're both for 1 beat notes, so we play 0 for 1 beat, we play 2 for 1 beat. And that's really all that means, but again, more on that later. You can also see C and you can see A minor. That is generally the chord that we are playing above the riff or the melody. So while somebody's playing the melody, somebody's playing the chords. But again, another time we can explain that in more detail. You can also see on here a little 1 and a little 2. That tells us the bar number if you're playing a piece of music and it's really super long. The bar numbers are super helpful because they help guide you and let you know which bar you're working on. The little symbol at the end with the 2 dots and the thicker line, that is a repeat sign. We'll dig into that soon too. That's another musical instruction that you will see from the very early stages, and that tells us that we need to repeat a certain section. And the last thing is that you can see these musical notes are all on different lines on the musical stave. Each one of those lines and spaces on the musical stave represents a different musical letter. But again, because we've got the tab underneath, all we need to do is see exactly where our fingers are placed. Now, I will always advise, it's really important and good to know where your musical notes are, because again, that just allows you to know the instrument, and understand the language of music that little bit more. So the first things we're going to dig into a little bit deeper are our time signature and our repeat sections. Now time signature generally tells you how many beats are in the bar. If it's a 4/4, we're going to count to 4. It's going to break down 1, 2, 3, 4. We've also got 3/4, which is another common one for beginners, where we count 1, 2, 3. Other ones that you may have seen are 6/8, which is 6 counts and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, jiggity, jiggity. Again, we'll look at that another time. You've also got other time signatures like 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, in which we count up to different number of beats, 5, 6 and 7 respectively then too. But let's stick with the basics for now, because that's most likely what you're going to see as a beginner. Repeat signs are just another little bit of musical instruction. Normally you'll see 2 little dots with the thick line at the beginning, and then you'll see 2 little dots with the thick line at the ends. Think of that as like the bookends, and that's saying, we are going to repeat this section here. If, for example, there's bits of music that continue, it might be the first time round you play the last bar differently than what you would maybe play it the second time round, and that's why you might see a little symbol like the 1 and the 2. So the first time round you play it and you play number 1. The second time round you play it, you skip number 1 and do bar 2 instead. Might not make too much sense just now, but we will look at an example later where we see this. The next thing we're going to look at are our note values. Now here you can see a nice little selection of notes and also a selection of rests. Each one of these little symbols represents a different value. So if there are 4 beats in the bar, these little symbols will add up to 4. And if it's 3 beats in the bar, these little symbols will add up to 3. So counting is actually a massive part of music, but as long as you can count to 4, you can divide things amongst that quite nicely, then you are onto a winner. So let's have a look at some of these notes. We've got a 1 beat note with the dark black circle, that would represent 1. We have a 2 beat note, which has got the white circle, and it'll be 1, 2. That lasts for 2 beats. We've got a 3 beat note with a little dot next to it. The dot adds on half of the value. So half of 2 is 1, add 2, that's 3. So that would be a 1, 2, 3. We have a little circle one here, that is a whole note, that lasts for a whole count of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you ever see one of these in a bar, it will only be that you see in the count of 4, because that takes up the full 4 beats. Another couple that you can see one that's got a little tail in the end, a little squiggly tail. That's half of 1 beat, so that would be. And then when you put those 2 together, you can see they're joined. Think of that little tail as before it has joined with the other one. So a 1 beat note would be 1, 2, 3, 4. A half beat, let's do 8 half beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. A 2 beat note, 1, 2. A 3 beat note, 1, 2, 3. A 4 beat note, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's really good just to get yourself familiar with those beats at first. Those are the first ones that you'll generally come across in lots of easy pieces. There's many more and many more musical instructions, but as always, get curious, make notes, pardon the pun, make notes of the ones that you haven't recognised or seen before, and we'll get to them later on, or you can do your own research and look it up. Remember, music is all about curiosity. There is so much to learn, and I encourage you to start here and just keep building from it. As you can see, we've also got rests. Now, the same way there are note values where we make sounds, rests just indicate there's no sound at that time. So a 1 beat rest, a 2 beat rest, a 3 beat rest, and so on. So you will see those fairly often in music too. So it will be a combination of rests and notes that will add up to the 4 beats in the bar. So what we're going to look at now is how to actually count those beats within the bar. We're going to start nice and simple. We're going to start with a whole note. This is called a whole note because it takes up a whole bar when we're in a count of 4. Now that is also the American phrasing. In the UK we call this a semi-breve, and it's a 4 beat note. So when we play this, 1, 2, 3, 4. There will be no other beats in that bar, there will just be that little semicircle right there. You'll see that often at the end of pieces of music when we want to finish the song with a count of 4, or maybe at the end of a section too. But of course in music that's just a guideline, it can take place anywhere. The next one we're going to look at is, instead of a whole note, we're going to look at half notes, half of 1 bar, half of 1 count of 4. So that's your 2 beat note. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there we go. They are also called minims in the UK, or a half note if you're in America. I like to call them by the fractions as well because it physically makes sense for how much of a bar that takes up. The next one we're going to look at is our quarter notes, which are 1 beat notes. What is a quarter of 4? 1. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to play 4 1 beat notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it so far? Cool. I'm going to show you 2 more. Rather than quarter, we're going to double that again. So we're going to go to eighth. So that was our little tadpole beats that were joined together. Now in music, yes, we count to 4, but because we've got, and there's 4 beats in the bar, but because we've got those extra notes in there, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So instead, we have to keep it within that count of 4 for the time signature, and we'll say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it would sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Comparing to the 1 beat notes: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And I'm going to take you one more. Now we haven't looked at this note quite yet, this is for another time, but just to show you the difference, if we double that again, we've got 16th notes. So there's 16 of them in there. They break down into 16, we call them semiquavers. So the last one, your 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, those are called quavers. These are semiquavers because there are twice as many of them. And that one is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So to summarise that, we've got our whole note, which is 4 beats: 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got our minim, our half note, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. We have our 1 beat notes, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. They are called crotchets. We have our quavers, which are our 8th notes: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then we've also got our semiquavers: 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 16th notes. So that's a little summary of those, and it's good just to be comfortable and familiar with what those are and how they fit into a count of 4 as well. So that's that for today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something from it. I hope it's made something make a little bit of sense. Spend some time looking at some examples, look up some melodies, look up different things, get curious. Let me know what you think in the comments, give me some feedback. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will be back in a couple of weeks' time with more on sheet music. But in the meantime, check out my Circle of Fifths series as well as all of my other lessons, techniques and tutorials. There's a little something for everybody. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.